I started making ice cream in the summer of 2018. I really like ice cream, and the ice creams that I was eating weren't great. I didn't think they were super high quality, and I love to cook, and so that was kind of a nice compliment to savory food. I mean, there's my bookshelf of just kind of culinary things. A lot of it is like you understand the principles of the science, and then you can do it all yourself. And we're gonna make a coffee ice cream today, and we're gonna do it for Jordan's birthday. Happy birthday, Jordan. How many hours of my life overall have I spent making ice cream? Probably like 500 hours. Yeah, like a couple hours a weekend. A lot of weekends, almost every weekend, for like 3 years. Yeah. The hardest part about making ice cream is accounting for different ratios and like water limits in the blend of ice cream, and compensating with different types of sugars or milk proteins. So everything's measured out in grams, and it's all done by percentages, so we can scale the blend up or down as we want. This is like a micro scale, so it measures things in like tenths of a gram. And that's important. When you make ice cream that people generally like is like really smooth, and that's because you've done a good job of suppressing the freezing point. So it's not really, really hard, but also you've done a good job of keeping as much water out of the blend as possible, so that when it freezes, it isn't super icy. In addition to having, when you churn it, you have to spin it fast enough. So you need like a pretty good machine, or good enough machine, to suppress ice crystal growth while it's churning. We've got two different kinds of sugars. So we have regular table sugar, and we have dextrose. And dextrose helps suppress the freezing point, so you don't have hard ice cream. This is milk powder, which is a good way to introduce fat into your ice cream, and proteins, milk proteins, without introducing water. This is a little bit of cocoa powder, which helps accentuate the flavor of coffee. This is espresso powder, which will just give a little bit more coffee flavor. Salt, super important. Egg yolks, good emulsifiers to create smooth ice cream. Xanthan gum, which is a stabilizer, and it gives your ice cream a little bit longer life in the freezer. And it helps it recover from people who thaw it too much, let it melt, and then refreeze it. If you let it melt too much and then refreeze it, you don't have something to churn it and suppress ice crystal development in your freezer. So if you freeze it and let it melt and refreeze it, then you have icy ice cream, and no one wants that. Probably like the creativity and problem solving of like creating flavor combinations that work, along with textural components in the ice cream that work well together, and then having to like problem solve through different recipes to get the right blends of sugars and milk solids to create a texture that I want to eat. We're just going to start by boiling some milk and cream. So it's 42% milk. It is 32% heavy cream, because if you introduce too much milk or heavy cream, that will either increase the fat percentage too much if you use too much cream, or if you use milk, which is way less fat, you'll introduce too much water, and then you run the risk of getting kind of icy ice cream. My least favorite part is when I screw up a recipe or like a blend that I'm trying, and it doesn't work out, and it's just it's really icy, or it's super starchy, or it's too fatty, and then I have to throw it away. Now we're gonna measure out our sugars and assorted powders. I usually like to start with about 5 grams of salt. Just kind of salt to taste after that. 0.1% cocoa powder, so 1 gram of cocoa powder. and 1 gram of espresso powder. One of my best friends and I kind of got into it at the same time, and so we will like bounce ideas off of each other, and we talk about it all the time when we're together, or when we're playing video games. We'll talk about it online. I'm going with 50 grams of dextrose. And this will help make your ice cream a little bit softer. So if we were doing like a chocolate ice cream, chocolate has a lot of natural fat in it, in addition to the cream. And that makes it freeze pretty hard. And so we usually change the ratio of dextrose to sucrose, which is table sugar. And then there's also a couple other sugars that you can use, like fructose, that will suppress the freezing point a lot, which means that it will be a little bit softer. It won't be like rock hard ice cream. This is also like a more complicated way of making ice cream. You can make ice cream with just like regular sugar, cream, and milk. It's not going to be like the best version of ice cream possible. Will it be noticeable by most people? Probably not. But I like to make things as good as I possibly can. I would say I am passionate about ice cream making. I talk about it a lot. These are different stabilizers and acids. This is inulin powder. They do different things for different types of ice cream. This is the chocolate corner up here. We have 3-4 different types of cocoa powder. Up here this is fructose. We've got here, yeah, so just different types of sugars, sugar substitutes, things this is maple sugar, extracts, milk powder, nuts, grains, etc. So next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna start to boil our cream. We wanna get it to about 164 degrees. We're also gonna use some egg yolks, and at 164 degrees is when egg yolks start to cook. And so we want to get them to that, we want to temper them, and then we want to put them back in. Ice cream can be expensive to make. It depends on the quality of ingredients you use. I try to use like the best ingredients possible, and that's another reason scaling up would be hard, because then you're having to account for really expensive ingredients. But if you're making it for yourself or in really small batches, you can use like the most expensive vanilla beans or the most expensive fruits, and the highest quantity of fruits. Now we're gonna weigh our coffee beans. And we're going to infuse this ice cream with 35 grams of coffee beans. These beans smell like chocolate, which is nice. Some beans have all beans have different aromas, but you want a bean that smells like something you want to eat in a coffee ice cream. Now we're going to separate our coffee beans, which we're infusing into our ice cream base, which is now done. So we take the ice cream base, would I ever consider making it to sell it? I've sold some of it before, but to sell it at like scale to make a profit is maybe harder. With the career that I have right now, I don't know if I have time for a farmer's market. I give it mostly to friends and family and my players. Yeah, that's generally it. And then it goes into the fridge to cool out and to infuse for probably 48 hours for the coffee base. We'll just pretend like we finished the ice cream base. And it's the next day. So we have our ice cream base, which has been infusing with flavors, and we're gonna churn it. This is the ice cream machine. It has an internal compressor, and you turn it on. It starts to make a ticking sound, and then it'll churn and it'll freeze the bowl. And it churns pretty fast and it freezes pretty hard, so it suppresses ice crystal creation pretty well. It's kind of a 24-hour thing. You have to let your ice cream rest. Generally, you'd like to rest, especially if you're doing an infused blend, like a coffee ice cream or a coconut ice cream or something. But to create the base itself is, 30 minutes maybe. This is the ice cream freezer. So these are all just different ice cream. Would I ever want to teach someone else how to make ice cream? Sure, if they're interested. I love talking about it, and I am a coach. So those two things kind of work well together.